What's up, everyone? Paul here from the Hoops Crew, and it is time for the Paul James Show. We started off with a technical gremlin there. It's only up from here. We are going into round 2, Geelong versus St. Kilda this week, and there's a lot of hype, a lot of excitement off the back of a pretty comprehensive win against the Dockers in the last few days. And of course, we've done that game to death in recent days, from my reaction to the Paul James Show on Sunday night, post-game live, as well as the chaps pulling the game apart. Now we can turn our attention to the Saints game this weekend. And tonight we're going to go through a few different topics. Team selection is out, so we've got a bit of a sense for what the Cats are doing. We'll talk a little bit about how they might choose to use the sub. We've got the player spotlight that we're going to hone in on as well. We won't talk about that player just yet. We've got our match preview, where we're going to be jumping into the conversation about the match against St. Kilda and what to expect in that particular regard. Q&A and a whole lot more. We'll also keep half an eye out, and I'm getting overly distracted by it right now. We'll keep a half an eye out on what is going on with the Hawks and the Blues as they duke it out right now, because that's a fairly interesting game. Right now, as things stand, the Hawks are up by 1 point, and the quarter time siren is moments away from blowing, you would imagine. Last week, crazy upset for the Blues, and the Hawks are kind of proving all the credentials that have been kind of heaped upon them at this particular stage. It's a really fascinating matchup. I'm keen to keep an eye on it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in great depths over the course of the game. One thing that I do want to get into before we get into tonight's proceedings, and while the comments haven't popped up with anything about this subject just yet, I'm all too aware of what is being said online about a certain cat. Social media is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that regard, and I'll be really clear, are pretty reluctant to talk about the subject for a host of, I hope, fairly obvious reasons for people. That's the real hope. But we are aware that lots of people want to discuss it, especially online. There's all sorts of legal things that go in with conversations around this particular individual. What I will say is there is a video that is going to go live on the Patreon side, and this is only going to be for Hoops Crew patrons, where I talk for about 5 or 6 minutes about the conversation swirling around Tanner Bruin right now, and I guess why we as an outlet won't really be talking about it in any depths at all, or at least not for quite some time. So please, if you want to get a bit of a feel for why us, but I also think why lots of other outlets, big media publications and the small ones, are not going anywhere near this story, go check out that video, because I think it might clarify a few things and certainly makes our stance as a Hoops Crew abundantly clear. That video will go live as soon as the Paul James Show tonight ends, so stay tuned for that one. Patrons only. Brendan, not a bad thing if you hadn't seen anything up to this point. But yeah, I'll talk more about that as much as I possibly can, but there's been updates. Yeah, I'll say that for now. We've got a far more exciting topics to discuss tonight, and we'll get into all of those momentarily. We're Cats fans. We're here to hopefully see our team win a premiership this year. I want to focus on the positive aspects rather than the negative ones. Now, as we shift across to that all-important team selection, let me get my screen right. Boom. Let's talk about the Cats and the Saints, which, as of the time that we hit go on this, we are a day, 23 hours and 30 minutes away from the bounce of the ball. Obviously not good updates. Yeah. Let's look at the ins and outs. And as you can see, for the Saints, they've got a few on both sides of the spectrum there. In Isaac Keeler, who I'm not familiar with, admittedly. Liam Stocker, who's gone around a bit and actually had a pretty good performance against us last year. Mitch Owens, who's a pretty damn good player. Lance Collard as well. Out for the Saints is Zane Cordy, Ari Schoenmaker, Harry Boyd. Oh, that's a pain for my super coach. And Angus Hasty. Harry Boyd going out? What? This guy had all the hype in the world. Oh, he's on the emergencies list. Let's see what comes of it. They've still got there's chance for that. Meanwhile, for the Cats, what we are here to focus on more importantly is the fact that there's no change. It certainly makes for a shorter team selection segment of the show here. No change from last week. We will, of course, have to name a sub from those listed on the bench here. You can see Oisin Mullen, Mark O'Connor, Ollie Henry, Mitch Nevitt, and Jai Clark. But beyond that, there's not really a lot to say about team selection for the Cats this week, and ultimately that is a great thing. Let's not lose sight of the fact that like consistent team lineups tend to be more successful. When you're able to keep the same players on the track week in, week out, that is typically a good thing. And off the back of a 78-point hiding of the Dockers, I would say keeping the same 23 active for the next week is a pretty damn good thing. We'll take a look at the emergencies where we see Ted Closey, Mitch Duncan, and Reece Stanley, as it was last week. When it comes to the sub, I, of course, can only speculate. Last week, I thought it was going to be Oisin Mullen. It ended up being Jai Clark. Jai Clark came on and really impressed with the admittedly quite limited game time he had, but he was really important at the coalface through that last quarter. Mitch Nevitt had a great game. Ollie Henry was spectacular. Mark O'Connor and Mark O'Connor, I think, had a pretty solid game. Oisin Mullen, we spoke about it on the Paul James show. It's been discussed on Post Game Live that there's a bit of concern, I guess, about Oisin Mullen from some corners, and I would argue that perhaps it's not the worst thing in the world if he is the sub, but I do see Shadu mention in the comments here that Mullen on Hill a second time or another time wouldn't be a bad idea. And I think that's where right now in this particular point of his development where it would be a good, like it's the sort of move that would be good for an Oisin Mullen, tail a player, learn the ropes, continue to develop your game. And he's fast. He can keep up with Brad Hill. He tackles hard. Like he brings a lot of really good defensive pressure. It might be a good move for him. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, look, he'll be my gut feel because his performance was probably the weakest of the five that are they're listed on the bench. But I could just as easily see Jai Clark be in the vest again. I don't know. It's hard to get a read, but I'm okay with it. As we mentioned, we've got the emergencies, Mitch Duncan, Reece Stanley, and Ted Closey. I don't see any late changes, barring illness. Everyone seemed to come through with a pretty good clean bill of health. I was happy with the way the players were moving throughout the game. I don't see any late changes unless there's something strategic going on. But of course, it's Marvel Stadium, so the weather is not really a factor here. I don't think there's much to see here. Hey, Jared, nice to see you, mate. And again, good to see you at the game on the weekend. I think you're right. By now, we would know if there'd been someone that pulled up with any sort of conditions off the back of that game. And the temperatures did ultimately come down a bit on the Saturday, making it far more manageable, I think, for players on both sides of the fence. I think they've had plenty of time to recover, even if that were the case. We don't have any milestones of note this week. Of course, the AFL site highlights that there. Keeler's playing his first game. Hunter Clark's playing his 100th for the Cats. Nothing necessary to speak of. We were looking at milestones for Kolajaz near Mitch Duncan quite early in the season if they were able to play. Mitch Duncan is emergency, as we've spoken about, and Jake Kolajasny is on the injury list for a while yet. So no updates in that space for a little while. It is interesting to me, if we want to talk about some absentees, it's interesting to me that Sean Manor is still on the outs. Now, I don't think he's on the outs because he's out of vogue. I think it's more a case of the club is more than, especially when you win by as much as you just did, there's no reason to really rush him back. He played half a game of football in the VFL last week. I would imagine he's going to work up closer to a normal full minutes game this week. And that's when they start to look at the ability to bring players such as him back in. Why rush it, essentially? On the injuries front and why some of these players won't be featuring, we spoke about Jake Kolajasny. He's got a groin injury, 2 weeks. Jed Buse with his finger, 7 to 11 weeks. It's a significant finger injury. Cam Guthrie still working through his Achilles, to be confirmed. Tanner Bruin with a finger, to be confirmed. Toby Conway with his back, to be confirmed. Mitch Edwards with his pelvis, to be confirmed. Jacob Mollier with his hamstring. Not good to see young blokes, especially talls, who don't necessarily have to take off at breakneck speed. Young blokes at the very beginning of their career with hamstrings. This is a little bit of a worry. 1 to 3 weeks. Lennox Hoffman with a hamstring, 1 to 3 weeks. Xavier Ifisic with his ankle, 3 to 5 weeks. Kyton Matafai Forbes, 3 to 4 weeks. Essentially, our entire draft pool from last year is out injured, save for Jay Polkinghorn right now. Kyton Matafai Forbes, managed 3 to 4 weeks. And Killian Burke, knee, indefinite. So, like I said, all of the young blokes pretty much on the injury list, which is a bit of a shame. We'd love to see a little bit more of them, both through the AFL level and the VFL level as well. Not to be. Please chat, because this is a very short team selection segment of the show tonight. Please let me know what you're thinking about the team as it has been selected, because we don't necessarily have a huge amount to go on just yet, which is, again, a good thing at its core, but for the sake of running a show, gives us some limited conversation. Shadoo's saying that I saw Bailey Smith had pulled up sore last game. Hope he's okay. Look, he did strap himself up with ice pretty quickly. Interesting, he had ice around his ankle, not the knee. But I suspect there's nothing to worry about there. I think that was probably pretty typical sort of management. If there's been any little concerns, you strap them up as soon as you can, bring down that swelling as much as you possibly can to give the guy every chance to recover as per normal. I don't think there's anything really to see there. And I can't say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I can't say that I saw anyone else labouring in any way throughout the game. Of course, there was the concerns around Tom Stewart and his neck early on in the piece. He came back and had a great game from that point onwards. I think we've got a pretty good bill of health. I don't think there's anyone that's a potential candidate for a late out unless an illness sweeps through and gets them, which is great. Really all about it. Do you think there's a potential Reece Stanley last-minute change? No. I think they might be onto something with. Very unorthodox, but Geelong is kind of the kings and queens of unorthodox when it comes to the way we play the game and the way we've kind of gone down the midfield route. Of course, all these years ago with Mark Blitzars being the third man up in the ruck and the way he kind of transformed the game before the AFL tried to nip that form of the game in the bud with some rule changes. Geelong seems to be kind of leaning into not just the 2 ruckman sort of policy that we've seen, and or the ruckman and the backup ruckman. We now seem to be rolling with 3, with obviously Sam de Koning is kind of the number 1 dog, but then from there you've got Mark Blitzars doing some ruck time, and in the forward line, Shannon Neal doing a bit as well. And it was really well shared between them. It allowed everyone to get a chance to rest. I think this works pretty well. But it's a tricky one. Rowan Marshall's obviously a gun ruckman for the Saints. They've got some options in that realm. I'd be interested to see how they utilize Rowan Marshall. It is actually interesting to me that Harry Boyd did come out of the team, because that would give them some extra depth in the ruck and allow them to try and stretch us a little bit with a Rowan Marshall, whose reach would be very hard for us to keep tabs on. But, Jackie says it quite well. It'll be interesting to see how SDK goes against Marshall. I think SDK can really get him around the ground, but Marshall does have a great ability to read the ball, especially when it's going forward. Sam's going to really need to be on his hammer to make sure that going forward he can kind of utilize his key defensive skill set and spoil the ball as often as he can. Shadoo saying we seem to have a bit of a hoodoo at Marvel. It's the type of game we lose. It absolutely is the type of game that we lose. But I don't think that'll be the case here. So let's flick across to kind of match preview mode here, where we talk a little bit about some of the ins and outs. Of course, there's not a lot to go with when it comes to form. The Cats are 1-0. The Saints 0-1 from the one game that they've both played. 7:35 start on Saturday night at Marvel Stadium. So our first night game of season 2025. History is against us, though. The Saints have won their last 3 against the Cats at Marvel Stadium. And even when they've gone to GMHBA recently, and I'm thinking about round 1 last year, for example, they've pushed us a bit. So I'm I'm at pains to get too carried away. Now, I'll talk about my prediction shortly, and I do think the Cats will win this game, and I think they'll win it comfortably. But it's dicey. Like I don't think it's as clear cut as it should be, as the stats would suggest, as the form of the two teams over the course of the last 6 months of football would suggest. The last 6 games are split 3-3. Yeah, it's a really fascinating contest. But of course, if we want to get a little bit historical, there have been some classic matches between the Saints in this century alone. We've got a 2009 grand final. There's, of course, locked in those hearts of all of us that we can draw upon. Some toe pokes and other iconic moments that are there to be discussed and remembered for all time. But, and it's not necessarily the best of memories for Cats fans, there was the fantastic game earlier that season, round 14 against the Saints, where Michael Gardner kicked a goal to very late in the piece to give the Saints the win. But I would argue, and I think there's still lots of people that are with me on this, that match is possibly the best home and away game that we've ever seen. That was absolutely extraordinary. A shame that we weren't on the right side of the ledger at the end, but we got the points when it counted on grand final day. That round 14 2009 game was extraordinary. Both teams undefeated. Jackie said, there we go. Best game that you've ever been to, Jackie says. Round 14 2009. It was absolutely extraordinary. I was a bit devastated. I was on the job working my pizza place at the time, but I was throwing my hands up for every possible delivery order that would come through that night so that I could listen to the game on the radio. And it was heartbreaking when you heard Gardner take the mark and kick the goal and the siren finally ring. But watching it on the TV afterwards, like, you just couldn't take your eyes off it. It was an extraordinary game. I wish I could go and watch that game again without knowing the result, because just to see that play out and the moments as they happened for the first time, I've never seen a home and away game like it. And to be honest, I haven't seen many finals like it either. The intensity there was grand final intensity. And the game met the hype in every possible way. Glad you got to go, Jackie. That's a really cool one. A shame that we lost, but a really, really cool one. Let's talk about what's at stake. For both teams, again, it's fairly clear cut. The Cats want to start this season strong, 2-0. We spoke about it on the Paul James show on Sunday, where the question got asked, and I apologize, I don't remember who asked me the question, but the question was asked, what are our chances of going 7-0? And I said it's pretty tough because we play a lot of really, really difficult teams in that first block of 7 games. We, of course, will have to go to Adelaide for Gather Round, where we play the home team. We've got Hawthorn in there. We've got Brisbane next week. There's lots of really high-quality teams for us, but we want to bank wins whenever we can. And this, in theory, and I do say in theory because there is this history, in theory, this should be a soft kill for the Cats on Saturday night. This is a team that most people have got pegged to be, bottom 4, bottom 6, and we should get the job done pretty easily. But there is that history working against us, and they do play Marvel very, very well. So we're going to need to be on the ball, really switched on. But 2-0 would be a fantastic start given what we're trying to achieve this year and the hard games that are to come. For the Saints, they just need to win. They need to win. The negativity is going to build. The questions from the media are going to continue to build if they don't get runs on the board. And there's not really a better way to do it than to take down a flag favorite, or a flag fancy, I should say. So they'll be ready to go. It's just whether the class of the team is there and whether the Cats themselves are switched on and ready to go. I think we'll win, though. The game breakers. For me, it is, and we spoke about Rowan Marshall for the Saints. I think he's probably the most important player on the field for them because of what he can do in the ruck. If he's able to get a hold of Sam De Koning, Mark Blitzarves, whoever rolls through the ruck at different stages of the game, if he's able to control that space and then get forward and clunk a few, he will make a huge difference for the Saints and could push them really, really close. For me, though, Tom Stewart's our most important because I think the biggest threat for the Saints outside of Rowan Marshall is their mid to small forwards. If I look at that forward line, we're talking about the likes of Darcy Wilson. Huge fancy for the Rising Star last year. Didn't quite win it. Obviously, our mate did, Ollie Dempsey, but really, really dangerous. Jack Higgins is incredibly dangerous. You've got Brad Hill. You've got Zach Jones who can run. Mitch Owens can play that mid to tall forward really well. They've got a lot of high quality players in that particular part of the field that are really, really dangerous. And I'm mindful of that. I'm mindful of the threats that they pose. And I think if Tom Stewart can kind of get on top early, that frees up the likes of a Zach Guthrie and some of the others that are you're having a couple of beers, Shadu. I think they've got these strengths. If we can nip some of those in the bud, and I think about a Liam Stocker as well, who can get down that end of the ground and be a bit dangerous from at time to time as well. If we can nip some of those threats in the bud early, we go a long way towards winning this game. So for me, what Tom Stewart and the half back line can do is of ultra importance. Shadu keeps talking about tapping back to the Carlton game. I'm just going to kind of low-key have a look at that myself. As we get further through the show, once we get through the preview component of things here, I will also project the scores on the screen so we can keep a bit of an eye on them together. But right now, the Hawks up by 3 points early? Close to midway through the second quarter. All right. Let's move on from there. The keys to victory for me, I mean, we spoke about the ruck contest with Rowan Marshall. I think the key for victory for the Cats is Sam De Koning on the flip side. In that contest, if Sam is able to perform in even remotely similar way to what he did last week, where he was fantastic against Freo, 25 disposals, got a goal, accumulating the ball, got a decent number of hitouts. We're not expecting him to ever have the most number of hitouts on the ground. He's still developing that craft and he shares the role one or two different ways. That's fine by me. I'm totally okay with Sam not winning the ruck contest if he's going to accumulate the ball like he did last week. What I would really like to see from Sam is consistency throughout the game. Like the midfield unit itself, that third quarter, he struggled. He struggled to get his hands on the ball both in the ruck contest, but also around the ground. I think he went disposalless in the third quarter, if I remember, and we don't want that. We just need him to use that body, use that size to remain relevant throughout. And if that's the case, I think it'll go really well for us. Again, I think if he can neutralize Rowan Marshall somewhat, that's an awesome start. So a prediction for the match. I've got the Cats winning by perhaps more than you would expect. And please, those in the chat, let me know what your predictions are for the game. Ben has already posted just the tip. What is it? What's his show? Tipping Point. He's already posted Tipping Point with his thoughts on the game. I've got the Cats winning this one by 35 points this week. It's not going to be the same level of blowout that we had against the Dockers. I do think that home ground thing, the way St. Kilda plays Marvel, does work to their advantage a bit. But I do see us as being a class above them. A 35-point win is what I am tipping for the Cats in this particular contest. Jackie's saying Cats by 40 points with a lot of players missing. And you're right, they are missing some high-quality players. But I do look at that midfield and I go, Rowan Marshall, Jack Steele, Jack McRae. It's pretty solid. You look at your defense and you talk about the Jack Sinclairs and the Wanganeen Millerers, Callum Wilkies, Jimmy Websters. Like, they've got good players around the ground. I should also shout out Mason Wood and Liam Stocker that are playing on the wing and through the center. Like, they've got some really high quality players. And I mentioned those mid to small forwards as well. They're dangerous. They're dangerous in some of those positions around the ground. I do agree that we should win comfortably, and I tip 35. Jackie's tipping 40. I think we're onto it with some good predictions. And yes, they are depleted somewhat, but we should get the job done. I'm comfortable that we'll get the job done. Let me know in the comments, though, everyone else, what you think will be the margin one way or the other in this particular matchup before we move on to our next segment. Drop those predictions in there. I'm going to toss to our sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist, and I'll discuss some of those predictions in a moment. We'll see you in a sec.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
Thank you, Cyril Cook Florist, as always, for your ongoing support of the Hoops Crew. Let's jump to the comments here where some other predictions are starting to come in. Shadu's got a couple. Geelong by 2 goals. Danger with 3 goals. And I do think Danger is a massive threat as well. My concern, I guess, for St. Kilda is that I don't think they have the stocks in the defensive end to be able to contain Neil, Cameron, Dangerfield, Henry, the Smalls, trying to squash Tyson Stengel, who kicked 3 goals from set shots on the weekend. Brian Myers, Brad Close, etc. Like, it's just, the list goes on and on and on. Bailey Smith when he goes forward as well. It's a lot. It's a lot in that Geelong forward line, and it's going to be really, really difficult for Ben. It's going to be really difficult for those Saints defenders, I think, to contain all of that. Ben shouts out, are you giving away free pizzas tonight? Not on your life. That's your job, mate. Post-game live on Saturday night, where the best caller or commenter gets a pizza. Go check it out. From Shannon Street, Shannon Pizza. Make sure to go check that one out for all the details. I mentioned it when I was jumped into post-game live. I was driving by it as I was chatting to Ben. Looks like a good joint. And I saw Brendan, I'm not sure if you're still in the chat right now, but I did see you were the winner there. I saw the photo on Discord. Geez, that's a good-looking pizza. They make a really good-looking pizza. So enough spooking of that, because they are not the sponsors of the Paul James Show. But tune in post-game live Saturday night, where a free pizza will be on offer. All right, let's move on to our next segment here, which is the player spotlight. And this week, I mentioned his name only moments ago. We are focusing on the legendary Jeremy Cameron tonight, who kicked his 650th goal in the game against Fremantle. He added a couple more on top of that to just push on towards 700. He was, of course, drafted as a GWS Giant to begin with. He was an underage selection from the North Ballarat Rebels. And geez, it goes way back now. Like, he debuted in 2012, I should say. Round 1, 2012 against the Swans. Obviously, the Giants got absolutely hammered in that first game, if I recall, as they did in most games that season. But it's been onwards and upwards from there. He asserted himself in this competition very, very quickly. It was immediately apparent just how high quality he was going to be. He was kicking big bags from a very early point in his career. To date, he has played 255 games and kicked 652 goals. He won the Coleman Medal in 2019 before joining the Cats. And I feel like I made my predictions clear a few weeks back. I believe there is another Coleman in the future, on the cards for Jeremy Cameron. 2025 will be that year. He's a 4-time All-Australian. He played in threw me off for a split second. 2019, he played in the grand final against the Tigers as a Giant, where they got absolutely pantsed. Not a good day for him, but he made up for it upon joining the Cats with the 2022 Premiership, and he was the shared Cargie Greaves medalist that year with Cam Guthrie. A huge honour for him. I have so much love for Jeremy Cameron. Now, I do, and actually, Shadoo's just dropped in here. I do think there are opportunities for him to assert himself more. There has been, I think, some inconsistency. And another typo from you, Shadoo. Lay off the beers, mate. He's been a bit hot and cold. Hot and cold, as Shadoo says. Hot, burning hot. In the last 12 to 18 months, there's been a little bit more inconsistency from Jeremy Cameron. He's had good games. He's also had games where he's been well contained and a little bit quiet. I think this will be the year where he'll really break out a little bit. I think it took a little bit of time for him last year as he kind of learnt the balancing act between him and a limited Tom Hawkins, and then him and a developing Shannon Neal. That cohesion is going to build over the course of the year, and he is going to get some silver platter service from the likes of Max Holmes and Bailey Smith. And just this legion of young midfielders are going to come through, and they're going to be streaming forward, delivering that ball incredibly well to him. I think he's going to thrive this year. So looking forward to seeing what Jeremy Cameron can do this year. Like I said, I'm expecting another Coleman medal from him this year. I think he'll finish the home and away season with 70 or more. And then who knows what is possible by the time we get to the end of a finals campaign, which hopefully ends on the final day of September with him holding up another Premiership Cup. Fingers crossed. that is our player spotlight for the night. We are motoring through the show so far. Apologies for that one. Let us project the scores in the game here. 20 minutes gone in the second quarter. It is a low-scoring one. The Blues 4-2-26. The Hawks 4-5-29. Who has kicked goals for the Hawks and the Blues so far? And how many wrong section there. How many free kick goals has Charlie Curnow got? Zach Williams with one, Jack Silvani with one, Brody Kemp and George Hewitt with one. Nothing to the big key forward, Matt Cottrell with one as well. Wait, did they just kick a goal? They did. They've just taken the lead, 5-2-32. Nick Watson, Dylan Moore, Blake Hardwick, and Mabior Chol with one apiece for the Hawks. I read this and I see, without being able to watch the game, I see it as being a night for the Smalls. And the weather has been a bit funny. Sauce just kicked a goal. I see it as being very much a night for the Smalls. The weather has been pretty wild in Melbourne and kind of on the outside today. There's been a lot of wind. There's been some rain. I am not able to watch the game right now. Someone confirm, is it a bit sloppy? Is it a bit slippery, dewy, whatever over there? Because that would make sense statistically with what I'm seeing here on the goal front. Maybe Chol being the only key tall to get one. Jack Silvani obviously adding to that recently, but I wouldn't call him your typical key forward in the same way that Chol or Curnow are. Let me know, though. I'm curious. All right, let's scroll back up there, keep those scores handy, and we can revisit that as the scores continue to develop. Let's move on to some news now. We'll keep the scores there, like I said. There's been a lot of exciting moments for the Cats over the course of this week. Jeremy Cameron, as well as Shannon Neal, as well as Ollie Henry have all signed contract extensions. Cameron and Ollie Henry to the end of 2027, Shannon Neal to the end of 2028. A great show of faith for Shannon Neal. For Ollie Henry, I sense that is kind of the free agency sort of spot, and there's probably some negotiations, financial negotiations that'll go on at that particular point. Shannon Neal would be a little bit further behind in that space. Whilst for Jeremy Cameron, he is north of 30 now. The fact that he's got a contract to the end of 2027 is actually really impressive to me. We are at this point of kind of the way teams manage their contracts. The 30-plus-year-old guys tend to only get 1-year extensions at a time. So the fact that Cameron we've already got him to the end of 2025. He's added another 2 years on top of that. I think is a massive show of faith. I think it is fantastic news if you're a Cat supporter. And I'm looking forward to Cameron, who is currently sitting on 652 goals, by the end of 2027, having close to 850. So he would need to kick another 200 goals across the next 3 seasons. And I think that is perfectly manageable. Now, let's jump into Jackie's comment here, where I've seen, and I'm not sure, Jackie, if you've seen, I'm not sure if you're very specifically shouting out Sam de Koning there because there's been some conversation in the last few days, but it is seeming very, very clear that the concerns about Sam de Koning going to either St. Kilda or even the Gold Coast are going to be allayed very soon. As Shadu says, apparently it is very close. He has basically agreed to stay at the Cats, and they'll just be ironing out the finer details when it comes to contracts and dollars and cents and those sorts of things. How many blocks of land he gets out the back. Thank you to all of the non-Geelong supporting douchebags out there who keep making stupid accusations. He's going to get 3 blocks of land, 500 sheep, and what else can you give him? Anyway, I'm running out of jokes here. He's going to get a lot of sheep and a big block of land just so that he stays at the Cats, sucked in everyone else. Moving on from that. I think it's really great news though that that Sam is nice and close. What that means for the likes of the Matt Rows that we've been linked to, interests me. I'll lean further into conversation about external players. I don't know if you, the viewer tonight, have seen it. Oh, there we go. 3 scoops of ice cream with sprinkles as well for Sam de Koning. I think you'll get right around that. That would sell me. If we want to talk about some external player news, some trade wins, if you will, there has been a bit of talk about Jamara. Now, I put a video together about Jamara quite a few months ago, and geez, did those Bulldog supporters come out of the woodwork. They were not happy with me in the slightest. If you've seen that video, and Shadoo's talking about it, I don't know if you, the viewer right now, have watched that video, but I put it together, and I'm going to go, actually, I'm making a statement here. I'm going to go check the timestamp on when I put that video together. But geez, did it get me a little bit of hate from some Bulldog supporters. They did not like me in the slightest. But now, where are we? We're at Railway. That's January 27. On January 21st, 2025, I put together a video. It was quite speculative, I'll admit. Jamara Ugle-Hagan to the Cats. And I'm going to read some... let's have a bit of fun here. Let's read some comments, because this was a time. Let me... let's read some comments. We've got some time to fill tonight. Let's have a bit of fun with this. Share screen. Video comments. Boom. Saw the thumbnail and clicked straight away. Heard Matty Stokes talking about, hang on, there's going to be an investigation into our club soon. Everyone looks like it. There's Amy. I know there was some salty dog supporters. Where are you? Hey, Bussy. This is the most wishy-washy gibberish I've seen on YouTube. Leave the kid alone. Cats fans are hilarious. Nah, he's off to the ruse. I think you're off base. Now, this is a fairly reasonable way. It's a nice, respectful way to start it. I think you're off base with this one. I can't see why Geelong would want him. He's horribly inconsistent. Oh, yeah, I guess that's more about Geelong's needs as opposed to why would he leave. We don't need a key forward. Like, there's lots of thoughts. Mate, this dickhead. It caught my eye at the time. And I held myself back. But mate, I got podcast gear for video game content, not for football content. So anyway, make podcast gear more expensive. Didn't like it. More dodgy brown paper bags down at the cattery. Cats will throw the farm at him, literally. Lots of people. I do need to read them out in really ridiculously whiny voices. Hang on. Make podcast gear more expensive. Oh, no, more dodgy paper bags down at the cattery. Oh, I can't keep doing this. Maybe next time if I get some whiny comments, I'll make sure to read them on the show. And I'll start with the voice straight away, because that is an excellent point. Let's see if we can find one more. Of course it's the Cats. They've got salary cap room for 16 $1.5 million players. And then I'm sure like their mum then tells them to shut up and come and eat dinner with the family. All right, enough of that. I'm being a bully. But, any of those 15, 16-year-olds. Anyway, Jamara himself. I don't know if people have seen it. So it was the Triple M Sunday rub. I don't have the ability to do the Siggy Butt Brain voice, but I'll try and work on it. Jay Clark, in one of his final gigs at Triple M before he goes off to become the chief of football at the Herald Sun, just kind of low-key name-dropped Geelong in the conversation about Jamara, and since then it started to pick up. And of course, and I spoke about it in this video, no clubs were necessarily being publicly linked to Jamara at the time, but the reality of it is he's from Warrnambool, and the closest club to Warrnambool is Geelong. He was in our zone. There was a whole bunch of reasons why he could have been interested in going to Geelong, but he, didn't pursue that and went down the path of the number one pick into the Dogs. It makes sense for him to want to go that way and get closer to home. And I think with the things that he's contending with right now, and I know it's not being publicly discussed, but I think most people can read between the lines. I'm aware factually of what it is. He needs family. I think to me, the best thing that he can have around him is that strong support framework of family. And so, Ben, stop fishing for love for your stupid tips. If you get this one right, though, it's going to be It's going to be nice and vindicating because you've had a lot of Hawthorn supporters tell you exactly where to go with the comments this week. Is it true Brisbane in the hunt? I have heard their name linked to it, and of course they're going to be interested because they do need to find a Joe Danaher replacement. Do we know if Jamari Ugle-Hagan is close to Bailey? I don't know if he was overly close to Bailey Smith, but they are both kind of party boys at their heart, and so they probably connected a little bit. To what degree, I don't know, but I'm sure they got along quite well. And I'm sure Bailey Smith will be, if that relationship is there, I'm sure he will be suggesting that maybe coming to the Cattery is a good choice. And yeah, I think on the personal level, I think it works really, really well for him as well. Did they go out together at the Brownlow? I don't know. Sorry. Oh my God, another goal to Carlton. 4-9. Sorry, what am I looking at? 4-5 to the Hawks, 7-3, 45 to the Blues. This is good news for you, Benjamin. Being a real condescending arsehole now. AFL scores. Let's get that back on screen. The siren is about to sound. 7-3-45 to 4-5-29. The Blues getting it done. And who's been adding goals? Kemp, Cottrell, Chera. So the midfield starting to get on top. Let's look at some of those team stats before we continue to push on with the show, because we've actually got a lot in the news thing still to deal with. We kind of got lost in the weeds after talking about contract extensions. Yeah, it's pretty solid. All right, let's move on to the coaches' votes, where Bailey Smith received the full 10 votes this week. Clear to all who watched that game that he was the best player afield. Tasmania Devils mascot is Nightmare Fuel, Ben says. I actually don't mind what the name is a bit odd. I'm sure there's some sort of meaning behind it that I'm not aware of yet. The name was a bit odd though to me. And the international series could be revived. We spoke about this on a recent show, but I'm interested to see where that heads in the future. All right. Our final segment of the show tonight is some questions. I am doing things very unusually here for a moment. I am going to very quickly put our splash screen up. I need to make a call. My wife has been away from home all night, and I'm looking after the kids in the house. She's now just tried to call me. I'm going to get back to everyone momentarily, cue those questions up, and we're going to jump into 15 minutes of it. We've also got to talk about the game of the week, and we'll go from there. I will see you in a moment with some questions. All right, let's get back to it. The comments already starting to come in, and thank you for those who are appreciating the family first sentiment there. Thankfully, kids are fine. My wife is just coming home from dinner and drinks with a friend, and she was just checking in and forgot that I was doing the live show right now. So I like this as a starting point for, the Hawks have kicked a couple late. Can we blame Ben Reeve if all the teams that were flogged last week get a win? I think we can just blame Ben for everything, really, that goes on in the AFL. He's a scourge on this game. His tips, are a scourge on this game. But good on the Hawks. They're kicking them hang on. So what actually happened here? Because that's a 2-goal jump and seemingly instantaneously. What happened here? Jesse Motlop goal. And that put them up by... Can someone clarify for me here what is like the graphic of this? Maybe let's have an updated. The score, and because sorry, I'm not watching it live. Oh, it hit the post. Right, so they just haven't updated the match feed. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Maybe they don't have the ability to strip these sorts of things as it happens. Right. How strange. Anyway, Blues by 5 points, and it's not even half time yet. What was there an injury? This is a 35-minute quarter. All right, Golkert. Enough of that arrogance. It's a good job, though. What question? 36-minute quarter. What is going on here? Questions. Let's get to some questions. We've obviously got a range of different topics that we can discuss. I will again stress, just for anyone who missed the beginning of the show, I will not be talking about Tanner Bruin. There is a video that is going live on the Patreon as soon as this show finishes airing tonight, where I recorded it last night on my way to basketball. I got blinded by the sun once along the way, which wasn't ideal. Or the viewers will get blinded by the sun at one point, which isn't ideal. Where I talk about absolute top-level stuff and why, exactly as Shadu says, why we won't be speaking about that, because there are a whole range of complexities around that topic. And I have respect for legal processes. I have respect for my colleagues here at the Hoops Crew, and I don't want to be endangering us by speaking about a topic that we shouldn't be. So tune in for that video. It's a 5-minute, 6-minute long scratching post video that will be exclusive to patrons. On the public side, I'm sorry, but it's just not a topic we're going to be going near. Not a question, but the love of the Cats from media is making me anxious. Of course it does. We know that we're a strong team. We know that premierships are on the cards most years. But you're right. Once the media starts to climb on the bandwagon, it feels like the cliff, falling off. And I don't mean the one that they're too old and they fall off, but like something going wrong. It feels like something's going to go wrong when there's too much hype swirling around, especially at this early stage where there's lots of time for the wheels to fall off the wagon. I get it. And I do worry, but I would love to just float below the radar for a while and go from there. Question. Let's say Mullen hasn't an out blinder this week. Do you think the doubts of last week would be left to an anomaly? No, not yet. I think people would want to see a few weeks of this. And I'm not saying every week needs to be the blinder that you speak of, but maybe you can start really strong here and then build a pattern of form. I think people for a while are going to be worried if he gets a little bit isolated in the forward line. I think we're quickly realizing that maybe the forward line isn't the right... Sorry, if he gets isolated in the opposition's forward line. I think kind of the small defensive role maybe isn't for him, but maybe halfback could be, maybe the wing in time. I think he's got a lot that he can add to the club. I think he's going to be a long-term player for us, and he's going to... I think he's going to be one of our best in time. It's just that he just needs to develop, and he needs to work out his place, and he needs to work out some of the ins and outs of the game. And Golkert, you also say better halfback than back pocket. I agree, and I do think with the tank that he's got in the body that he's already built up quite a bit, that there's some potential midfield action in the future for him as well. Sorry, Aviation. I don't know why you didn't get the notification going live. We did have some mess there where, and I'll admit, I didn't really communicate things very well with Ben. Ben had scheduled 7:30 again. There we go. It's halftime now, finally, after a God knows how long quarter. 36-minute plus quarter. Ben worked on the assumption I was going to go live at 7:30 again, like the other day, and I didn't point out the fact that I was solo dadding, and so I needed to get both kids to bedtime rather than one, and I had no chance of making the show live. So, Ben, I'm sorry. Audience, I'm sorry for the late start, but we start at 8 o'clock, and we'll keep rocking this party until it ends. Let's look at some other topics. Shadu talks about Danger stepping down as the AFLPA president, being controversial president who got a lot done during COVID, sign he's winding down and looking to retire sooner rather than later. I don't know if it's, obviously retirement isn't that far away for Danger. I think we're 2 years away, perhaps. But I think he's done a good job of kind of building up others around him. And obviously we've now got a brand new AFLPA president. And I think that whole team that's been kind of under him for a while has really learnt the ropes and is in a position to stand up and advocate for the players in the right way. Danger had this huge platform. He'd been doing it for a long time. Darcy Moore has got that platform now, and now it's probably the right time to hand it over. So it allows him to focus more on his own game and what he needs to do as a captain. My big worry last year was when he became captain that he was taking on too much. He was the oldest player at the club, or was about to become the oldest player in the club when Hawkins retired. He is now. And he was the captain of the club, and he had all these aspirations to be the All-Australian captain. He does content on the side, TV shows. He's a big media personality. There was so much that he did, and he was already the AFLPA president at that point. I felt like something had to give. I don't think it was sustainable. And maybe he's come to that same conclusion. I could be wrong. I could be speaking off base a little bit here. I'm going to go full screen since we don't need to see the scores right now. I think this is the right fit to allow him to focus on himself, his family, what he needs. I didn't even speak about his family. He's got young kids. Like, he was doing a lot. And I'm glad that he's taken a step back to focus on family and football and his football. There's good people able to step up, like a Darcy Moore, who are stepping up. I think Darcy will do a great job, and we'll see how that all plays out. Danger should make Holmes co-captain and shift some responsibility, build continuity now. No, I'm okay with Danger going around for this year, and then I think maybe next year, which I believe might be his final year, that's maybe the year where the captaincy, it's a gradual release of responsibility, which is more of a teaching term for the most part. But in this case, he's shaved off one bit of responsibility. He'll continue to whittle that down, and Bussy's here. He'll continue to whittle that down, and eventually he'll just be a player on the Geelong team list, and eventually he'll retire. It'll be bit by bit by bit. I'm all for it. Jackie is very pro Darcy Moore replacing Danger as the AFLPA head honcho. Yeah, so am I. I got no real concerns for that at all. Atkins overlooked for leadership. Tommy Atkins did a great job on the weekend. I think he'll get overlooked, not because he doesn't have the qualities, but because I think in terms of on-field stuff, he's still a fringe player in some ways. And not in, Tom Harley, for example, was obviously far from the best player at Geelong, but he was a great leader, and he absolutely retained and held onto that spot as a defensive post for many years. And I don't think that was ever in question. Whereas Atkins, I think, because of the nature of the position he plays, the youth that's coming through, the Bailey Smiths that we recruit, et cetera, he is more vulnerable, I think, in terms of retaining and holding his position. So I think you want to have someone that you're pretty confident is going to play week in, week out, barring injury. And I think that's a risk. You're right, he is a barometer. I think he's hugely important in that regard, but he can still be that barometer without needing to take on the leadership responsibilities. What have we got here in the comments? Hopefully the Cats are fired up for revenge this week. Absolutely. First-time feature, who I don't think I've seen in the comments before. Apologies if I'm wrong there, but it's great to have you on board. And thanks for your thoughts there. Yeah, I'm after 3 straight losses at Marvel to the Saints, and them even pushing us at GMHBA a little bit lately. As we mentioned earlier in the show, we've won 3 from our last 6 matches against the Saints. It's time to fix up that record a little bit. Shadu says, Darcy Moore is so average on the field right now. Hopefully he's a strong advocate. He's literally the only Magpie I like, though. Look, I think they just need to work out the defensive blend to allow... Darcy Moore is more of a Tom Stewart than a key defender. But the lack of key defenders at the Pies has meant that he's had to step up to that role, and I don't think it's his greatest strength. He should be able to peel off. Yes, I did. Shadu, yeah, thank you. I think that's the flaw with the Pies defensive unit, and so that's a challenge for them in terms of player thing. But I think he's still a brilliant player himself. They've just got to work out the role. Tropical Aussie, I'm happy to quickly revisit Jamara Ugle-Hagan if you like. I did discuss him maybe 10 minutes or so ago. Jamara, I screen shared the comments section of the video I made back in January 21st, as I mentioned earlier on, with all the Bulldog supporters that were coming out of the woodwork, referring to me as a clown and all sorts of other insults for daring to suggest that Jamara Ugle-Hagan might come to the Cats. Well, to all those Bulldog supporters who were absolutely wrong, we'll see what happens. He may not come to the Cats, but for fairly obvious reasons, I think it's got to be a consideration. And yes, I did project Bussy's comment. If you're feeling confident about Saturday, Aviation and Bussy are going to meet up. That's awesome. Ben, maybe I'll deliver that one shortly. I'd love to be able to get along. We'll see. I don't think I'm able to make it myself, but we'll see how we go. Thank you, Tropical Aussie, for becoming a YouTube member of the Hoops crew. That's awesome to have you on board, and looking forward to you enjoying all the content that we have. If anyone else wants to become a member, please consider doing so. You're a legend, mate. Oh, and Ben said, as if on cue, Ben said the exact same thing. He also says that we're waiting on that Harley Reid to Geelong video. Comment section. Should I do it? Should I make a Harley Reid to Geelong video? We know, we absolutely know how the non-Geelong supporters will respond to it, but should I? Comments, throw some more at me. What do we want to discuss? Oh, geez, Harley to Geelong. I'm going to make the Eagles fans cry. They're already so demoralized. Jared Foxy's talking about, didn't pin properly. 100% Harley to Geelong. Please, and I won't post in the Eagles Reddit. I won't shy from the fact that with every click and every view, there's dollars and cents. Now, I'm not going for rage clicks. But if some rage clicks happen to come along, I won't object at the same time. What do we got here? But a Laylord to Geelong video to annoy Tigers supporters. I don't see that one happening. I don't ever see that one happening. Laylord to Geelong. I do need to... What I will say, and I know we're all having a bit of fun, but I'm going to make sure it's publicly declared. I do need there to be some sort of rationale, reasonable rationale to support it. Jamara Ugle-Hagan makes sense. He's from the region, or at least that general vicinity, Western Victoria. And we're the closest team to the country region where he comes from. Then, of course, Harley Reid is a Geelong supporter growing up. That makes sense. Hang on. What's the Selwood connection? What is the Selwood connection? Tom de Koning, of course, the Geelong, because he's brother. I've done that video. Jazzboy 212. Make sure to go check that video out as well. Let me bring up the back end here, because we've got quite a few of these. I've done a few of them over the course of the last little while. Hang on, let me get my screen sharing on point for everyone for a moment. You're getting a little sneak peek into the back end here, but you can't see numbers, so it's okay. Ben, don't get too upset with me. When I bring up the back end here, you'll see we've got lots of Chaps episodes. There's Troy Seld. Oh, that's because I scrolled back a little bit. So we did Jamara. We did one about Matt Rowell because, of course, the conversation had started. We did. Oh no, that's not that one. We did some late last year, of course, around Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca. I don't mind doing these videos. But I do try to make sure as we go. I'm losing them all now. There's lots of them here. There's Jack Martin, Bailey Smith, Port Adelaide fans being enough of the week. Like, I do like doing those videos because I think it's important to explore what these players could offer to the Cats, and if there's some sort of way that we could connect them, then I want to explore that a little bit. Ben, the Discord link is apparently broken. If you're able to fix that, drop it in the comments would be great for starters, but also, actually, let me see if I can quickly do it. I'll drop a share link in. There's a notification there. Footy tipping. Chucky added me ages ago. Just looking at the Supercoach League. It hasn't allocated head-to-head opponents yet, despite other leagues. I mean, will that sort itself out? By tonight, I'm noticing we only have 8 out of 20. Is it possible to reduce the size to 8? That might fix it. I will look into that one. But let me get a link. Copy that. Edit the invite link. Expire after never. Generate a new link. Copy. Ben, don't worry about it. I've got it, mate. There is the Discord link in the comments section there for you to jump in and join the community. I'll pin that one for a little while. Okay, what else have we got here? Scrolling back through some comments that have come through. Ben wants me to bait the bastards, being the West Coast supporters. We've spoken about Tom DeConing. No Harley Reid for us, because if he said Alex Dodson's coming to us and he went to the Saints, then now he says Harley is coming to Geelong. Nah, he's going to the Saints. No one wants to go to the Saints. When you're a fresh recruit, you don't get a say. You get drafted by whoever you get drafted by. Once you've got a say, no one. There we go. Gold Coast joined the Discord. Awesome to have you. And please, anyone else, consider joining the Discord. Awesome community that we've got going there. Looking forward to chatting to more and more of you over the course of the year. Also, 3 bags full who's joined as well. Nice to have you as well. Ben says that we need to post memes in the chat. That would be really handy. So this is the background on Layla. Layla called Joel and asked if he could wear a black armband for Troy. Right. And asked for Joel for approval. That's fantastic. I love that. Anyone in the Geelong region growing up that is now playing AFL might want to come to the Geelong Cats. Look, that's a large number of players that I could potentially speculate on. I mean, if you want me to do a video for each, send me a list and I'll just start chipping away at them. Sam Walsh, Kerno. What is my OnlyFans link? Not going to disclose that one. Melbourne Storm beating Penrith Panthers at halftime. Look, I don't follow the NRL, but I do want to see the Storm win. So that's awesome news. Thoughts on Harley Reid's flopping on the weekends? I didn't actually see any of the flopping footage. I just saw some of the very arrogant behavior from him, which, wasn't great. So, everyone wants the Discord. The OnlyFans link. I apologize. I won't let you see me in compromising positions. It's anonymous. There's a paper bag on my head. Anyway. Sorry to any children. I note that Brendan is gone, so I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that the kids aren't there either. Good grief. Anyway, enough about OnlyFans. Is there any other topics that we would like to... Oh, no, Brendan's here. The kids aren't there, though, too, right? God help me. This is almost as bad as Lucas dropping F-bombs while my son was listening in. Where's that OF? No. I don't know what's worse. The suggestion that I have an OnlyFans or Ben's suggestion that I wear Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pajamas. I have students who are aware of my presence on the internet and do from time to time watch these videos. I will not be indulging any further in commentary around an OnlyFans before that bites me on the ass and I lose my job. This doesn't have enough alcohol in it. All right. What's up next? Please, non-OnlyFans comments, please. You have a rat costume. I don't want to know. No, let's move away from that. All right. What do we got here? Sam Walsh and Charlie Curnow to Geelong Cats video, JK and Les. I mean, I don't see Charlie Curnow leaving. I don't really see Sam Walsh leaving either. But, I mean, we could have fun with it one day. Maybe I'll just do it, preface at the beginning that's for shits and gigs, and then just go for it, and we just wax lyrical and have a bit of fun. The SDK Marshall matchup, we did speak about it, Energizer, in case you weren't here for the very beginning of the show. We did talk about that matchup and how, for me, I think that matchup is one of the key matchups of the match. Obviously, Rowan Marshall is a huge force as a ruckman, can go forward and do a really great job as a forward. Now, we do have the defensive structure to allow for it. Blitzarves will be spending time in defense. When Sam DeConey is in the ruck, they'll probably alternate. I can imagine they might blow up Marshall's tank. But I think that's still one of the key matchups. If we can shut down Marshall's influence, as well as the other half of that comment that I made at the time was also those mid to small forwards that St. Kilda have that can be quite dangerous. If we can shut down those players, we'll get the win pretty comfortably. The next one, Splinter. Ollie Lord to Geelong. Oh, hang on. Ollie Lord to Geelong was one. Yeah, look, I mean, I haven't heard his name come up again. I don't know how long he's contracted for, actually. I remember that was signed a 2-year deal, keeping at the club until the end of the 2026 season. So I would imagine that maybe next year there could be an Ollie Lord video, but that'll be a really fascinating one. Make a best 23 of other teams to Geelong. Oh, like pick the best players from all the other clubs to make a 23. Is that what you're talking about? Because that would be a really cool video. I would like doing that. That could be really interesting. That's a really fascinating one. How old is Jagamooni now? Is he draft age this year, or is he like his name's been on the periphery for quite some time, but I don't know if he's that age yet. But it's a really fascinating one. And Goldkirk says yes. So okay, I might look to make a video where I'm selecting the best 23 players, the best 23 of players not from the Geelong Football Club. That could be a really interesting one. I might just make that work. That'd be a really interesting one. But yeah, someone clarify a little bit. Oh, so he's 18. Okay, so he's draft age this year. So we might have a father-son on our hands, which will be really, really interesting. Energizer Red says, also, are we going to be caught out as too tall in the backline this week with Max King out? No, because we don't have the tallest backline as it is. And Blitzarves can play mid and even on small forwards, really, with his height, but also athleticism. I think that means that we might see Sam DeConey spend more time in the ruck just to allow for that flexibility. And then our other defenders, whether we're talking about Jack Henry, etc., they're not the tallest of tall defenders. So I think they can work off the mid-sized forwards that St. Kilda does have quite a few of. I could also see a Mason Wood going forward at different stages, and that's where Jack Henry really comes into it, that Tom Stewart comes into it, that Zach Guthrie comes into it. I think we've got with Max King out, the right profile in terms of height to actually be able to counter what they've got. Apparently Jagger's wearing number 21 as well. That's awesome. All right. Do we have any other questions? Let's get the scoreboard back up on the screen. Are we into that third term yet? We're a couple minutes in. Let's get the scoreboard back online. Share my screen. Carlton and Hawthorn. Boom shakalaka. There we go. 4 minutes in. Blues by 5 points. There has been no change to the score so far. Yeah, look, I'm interested too. 7 to 11 weeks with a finger injury is a long time. I have no doubt it's legit, but it is a long time. I'm not sure how and why that one's come about. No, let me see. Have they really spoken in depth about what? K-Rock Football understands the 31-year-old damaged the tendon in his little finger of his left hand in an off-field injury. Tendon issues. Yeah, and there has to be a tendon. Tendon injuries are difficult. Do I have Geelong supporters at work? I do. In my immediate office, I don't. I've got some Hawthorn, Collingwood supporters. No Geelong supporters in my office, but I've got a few in the workplace more broadly. And unsurprisingly, those Geelong supporters are the best people that I work with. But it is good. Yeah, it's nice to have a few Geelong supporters that I can kind of wax with. It was really good. Like, you know, when I had a bit of insight into some of the goings on at the club and was getting to chat to some of the players, they were really fascinated about what I knew, what I was up to, some of the interactions I'd get to have. Hopefully with a bit of... And please, I've said this in recent shows, bombard the Geelong socials, not with Tanner Bruin questions, but with questions about how do we get players on the Hoops crew. Tag us in the process. Or tag me as well for the behind the play side of things. Please hit up the club as much as you can. If you want to see Geelong players and Geelong personalities, key figures, if you want to see those names appearing on Hoops Crew content, we would love to do it. Just bombard the Geelong socials with as many comments as possible. Tagging the Hoops Crew, you know, asking for players to come on. That stuff gets noticed. In time, that gets noticed. If it's constant enough, it works. I've seen this work in lots of different other spaces, and hopefully it works for us as well. All right. If there are no other questions, we might wrap things up for the night. We have a very intriguing football game to watch, Thursday night football. We have been going for over an hour and a quarter, or almost an hour and a quarter now. And it's been a good time. We managed to stretch what is fairly limited news a long way. Like I said, if you've got questions about Tanner Bruin and what we are planning on doing in that space, and you're not a patron, you'll need to sign up to our Hoops Crew Patreon to be able to check out that video. It is $6 for the month to get access to not just that video, but a range of exclusive content, extended content, early access content. But I have there is a video that will go live within moments of the show finishing, where I kind of share why we're not really talking about it. We're aware of what's being said online. We're not putting our head in the sand. But there are some responsibilities, I think, and I wouldn't call us we're a minnow. We're a small fish in a big pond. But where any sort of media group, anyone with like a public reach, you want to be careful about what you say. So I explained that in the video on why we're being very cautious with it, why we'll continue to be cautious with it until there is something public put out there in terms of like a result. So hopefully people understand. I sense everyone is. No one's really asking or been bothering me about the topic in the chat tonight, and I appreciate that. Scores are level. That makes the game even more fascinating to watch. But yeah, stay tuned for that one when the show finishes up. All right. Thank you, everyone, for having tuned into the show tonight. Please, if you haven't already, support the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel, tell your friends, become a member like an absolute legend did just before. Hopefully there is more of you joining in those membership tiers over the course of 2023. Again, I'll pin it. Tropical Aussie, you are a ripper. Tell your family and friends, though, you don't need to become a member. We very much appreciate it. It's a very humbling feeling when people are willing to kind of put some money out there to support what we're doing. We really appreciate it, and we hope that we deliver a product that is worth your time and your money. But if you just want to subscribe and check out what we're doing, whether it's the live shows, whether it's the content, some of that content that's not early access but eventually shared publicly, we really appreciate that as well. It's hugely important to us. Comment on those videos, whether they're live or after the fact. Please don't hesitate to comment on the content that we're putting out there. We would love to hear your thoughts and discuss with you whether we are live or not. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat for a second. Super chat donations, memberships, that's all hugely important. Follow me on socials, Paul James Games and the Hoops Crew on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. Pick your poison. We're there. And again, tag us. Tag the social teams with anything they post. Let them know that we are here and that we are keen to talk to them. Thank you, as always, to our sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist, and all of our patrons. One final thing before we finish the show tonight. I nearly forgot about it. As people would recall from last week, I introduced a little segment that indulges in another huge passion of mine, which is video games. Paul, does YouTube and Patreon membership link? Ben, that's a question for you, mate. Please clarify that one. Paul James Games, TMNT Games, OnlyFans. Oh, God. I mentioned last week there is another great love that I have, which is video games. And I'm indulging in it just a little bit with every single episode on a Thursday night where I show off a game that's coming out, that's on the way, that I think looks cool and I think deserves to be noticed. So that is exactly what we are about to do. I am going to share my screen once again and introduce you to a game called Gunboat God. Check it out in a moment.
Hello, I'm Tom from Jansen Rad. I'm thrilled to show you some gameplay from my upcoming game, Gunboat God. Gunboat God is a slick shoot-'em-up where you blast your way through a world of tightly designed levels in your trusty gunboat. At its core, the game is about fluidly ducking and weaving your way around enemies while styling on them in a big way. From the start, you become friends with a genius engineer crocodile named Yeti, who is on a mission to build the ultimate gunboat for reasons currently unknown. Your action-packed journey spans over 5 biomes, with a steady stream of upgrades begging to be unlocked. A huge variety of enemies will approach and attack from every angle, with behaviours unique to all of them. So, quick thinking and resourcefulness is greatly rewarded. Every level might challenge you in a different way, So trying a different weapon, a specific ability, or spamming a new skill that you've just acquired are all tools at your disposal. Each biome culminates in a unique and intense boss fight that will test you with everything you've learned and unlocked thus far. All of the characters in the game are animated in 3D, then exported to 2D frames, before finally being implemented in the game. This creates a fun, eye-catching art style. And also I just like animating stuff. Gunboat God is releasing early next year. You can follow me for development progress on Twitter and Blue Sky, and you can also wishlist on Steam. Thank you for watching.
There we go. That's Gunboat God. Sorry about that audio hiccup there for a moment.
People still need
I
you.
messed that up
Humanity
completely.
still needs.
But I don't know if people noticed just listening to that. It's an Aussie made here in Melbourne. And I want to take every opportunity I can to promote Victorian, Australian products because the Australian video game scene is quite vibrant and Melbourne, Victoria in particular. And I want to shout out all they do because we are batting well above our average in the video game landscape. That game can be wish listed on Steam right now, as the trailer spoke about. All right. Thank you, everyone, for having tuned in tonight. I nearly forgot about that segment, so I've kind of gone through all the wrap-up stuff since. Please make sure to check out all of the other Hoops Crew content. So, Saturday night after the game, it'll be quite late. Post-game live will go to air. Ben doesn't have a time specified here, but shortly after the game finishes up, expect him to go live. Sunday, again, the Paul James Show will be back, where I'll review the Cats and the Saints game. Monday, Ben will return with the tipping point once again, where he'll make some ridiculous predictions about a bunch of games that are ahead, though maybe this Blues and Hawks one won't be as ridiculous as it first seemed. Tuesday, the Chaps Chat Cats will return again to wrap up that match. And of course, along the way, do not miss the match reaction video that I'll put together and a whole lot more Enough of the Week and all of the other awesome content that we put up that isn't necessarily live. Thank you, everyone, for having tuned in tonight. That's another episode of the Paul James Show. Thank you, everyone, for having watched this show, for commenting, sharing your thoughts. It's been great fun. No, I don't have an OnlyFans. Remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.